there's a lot of people. I'm not trying to do a back in my day thing, 'cause it was only 10 or so years ago, but there's a couple of pictures now that have gone around, and I was trying to explain to someone recently actually the context of why that happens. That you climb, everyone has to climb on one day. That there's certain weather windows, super isolated shot. But mine, I can't relate to those pictures at all because I climbed from the other side of the mountain, and I spent 6 months probably on that mountain, and I was never in a queue once. And my issue was I was more isolated than crowded, which is a whole different issue to them being in a queue of people. So it was a very, very raw experience, and I think the age I did it at meant it was probably quite defining in some ways of the experiences you have, and I probably didn't really understand them at the time, of seeing very real bodies of people out of all people who have died like a matter of hours before, is quite it's quite intense, and very sad and very contemplative and everything else. And it happens at a young age, a very, very stressful environment as well. So that it's a very dangerous place. And I wouldn't say I thought I was going to die at some points, but there were occasions where you're like, I'm genuinely very, very scared, and it's dark and it's cold and there's a body there and I'm attached to this rope here. And it's the reality of what some people do is very real. A guy who I climbed with in 2010, for various reasons, they couldn't take his body down, and I was the first one up in our team the following year. And you literally walk along, and you have to then do a loop around and then keep going, and you see the guy's body who you were with at base camp the year before, which is it's quite a lot to take in. And then even higher up, I had to literally there's a rope you have to unclip from it and reclip onto it. Because there's a body attached to it that died the day before, which is, you almost have to disconnect what you're doing and what's happening, and equally it kind of gives you perspective. And I think when I turned around in 2010, which I did for various reasons, I think the fact that very real nature of mortality around you probably is a factor, that it makes you go, this isn't like a game. You are by yourself, and you're in an incredibly dangerous place. And there's a body 100 meters ahead of you, 50 meters ahead of you, of a guy who summited late, died on the way down, also quite young. And you just end up in that position. So it's a dangerous place. And it still is a dangerous place, and things always happen. And even some super experienced climbers die. I've had a number of people I've climbed with, or were guides of mine, or Sherpas of mine, have died. That's the nature of climbing mountains.